Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the New Block Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Chris, aka
Yeah.
Prince, with the homie Duran, aka Medic Grizzly. Duran, how we doing, bro?
It's Thrones Tuesday, bro. Feel great. How you doing?
It is Thrones Tuesday. I'm feeling awesome. I am ready to get back into Eddard 3 in A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. So we are coming off the heels of all the nonsense that happened in our first Sansa POV chapter. Um, this is a short chapter. I think it's only like 7 pages, but and it really only happens in one room. Maybe a couple of minutes go by.
Yes.
Again, after the last chapter, Sansa and Joffrey were hanging out all day, and they stumble upon Arya and Micah, the butcher's boy. Joffrey is acting like a little prick, as he does, and he gets his comeuppance. So this is the aftermath of this, where Arya's been missing for a couple of days, because she was just, she's so terrified. I mean, she essentially attacked the prince, even if the prince deserved it. Can't do that. You can't do that.
She whooped his tail and threw his sword away and said, "Yo, you ever come at me again, it's gonna be problems. Leave me and my friends alone. I'm out."
Basically, that's
savage. Let's break it down.
essentially
She
how
is
it happened.
savage.
So the chapter starts out with Jory coming in and telling Ned that they found Arya, and Ned is pissed because Lannister men found them, or they didn't find her, but when they got back to the gate, to the castle gate, Lannister men were there, so Arya was brought before the king and queen. So Ned's pissed, because obviously, his daughters are missing for days. He's hardly sleeping. He can't eat, as a worried father would do. So he gets over to Sir Raymond Derry's audience chamber, which they add a little bit of exposition here too about who Sir Raymond Derry is, like, because they're on their way from Winterfell to King's Landing, of course. So they have to stop along the way at like various castles to stay the night and eat and whatever. Sir Raymond Derry, his family actually fought for Prince Rhaegar at the Trident, and they put in there that his 3 older brothers had died at the Battle of the Trident. So again, just giving you some more exposition about the lay of the land. Yes, Robert's the king; he wields absolute power, but not everyone in the country fought on his side, right?
At all. And they feel the tension. The family, even they know about what's going on. Even
right.
Eddard talks about how eyes are still watching him, so he has to keep his guard up, even though he's in a territory where you feel he's free. He's with the king. He's not.
Right, because there's a lot of tensions there. Of course, you got Stark men with Lannister men, with Derry men, with Baratheon men. None of them really like each other. And then, of course, you add this added tension with Arya having gone missing, and the Crown Prince has been attacked, and there's all this just bad blood just kind of stirring around. But anyways, so Ned gets there to the audience chamber, sees Arya, and she just starts crying immediately. As soon as she sees her dad. So Ned goes to her and comforts her, and everything like that. And again, it's just one of those tender moments that we get from Ned. Like, we're reminded all the time how good of a father he is, how he can just just help comfort his kids in a way that we don't see a lot of other parents in this world do. So as we're kind of going through this chapter, Duran, as Arya is giving her side of the story and Joffrey's giving his side of the story and everything like that. Reading it for the first time, what were your thoughts? Or I guess my question is, what did you think? How did you think this was going to go? Show aside.
All right, show aside, because the first thing I went to is the flashbacks to the show, and this reminds me of Children's Court. This is back and forth. He did this, I did that, and then Robert's King is basically being like, "Yo, listen, I ain't got time for this. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's kids, they're gonna go back and forth, yada 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 yada." But his wife, yo, she is a piece of work. Like, we just mentioned the layout of the land. Everybody here is on a high alert. No one likes each other. and you gonna stir the pot even more because your son got his butt whooped by a little girl. They kids. And then you want the king to respond like a king when tensions already like everybody say go, they stabbing everybody. That's how bad it is. Like, do you not know this? But then again, she does know this because she is a piece of work in so many other words I want to say. And she just basically like it's her nails and just engraving and engulfing in like how she wants to create chaos all the time, even in children's quarrels. That's how petty this girl is. She is a definition of a petty. I can't say the word. Y'all know what I'm about to say. That's who she is.
Yeah, she's something. That Cersei is something, man.
What? And
She
she's prepping and grooming her kids to be the exact same way.
Yep. And it's really no surprise as to why Joffrey is the way that he is, because Cersei enables she enables it. She
Mhm.
enables it. I mean, and like you can even see in the reading here, they said Joffrey went pale when he started doing his version of the story. Everyone there knows that he's lying, but he's the crown prince. So at the end of the day, it's just like, what can you do? You know what I mean? And she's the queen, so if she says, "Yo, I want this done," I want this done, and that's kind of how it is. And you see Robert. I kind of feel for Robert in this scene because like you got his best friend right here, his wife right here, his son here, and like you said, look, kids fight. That's what they
Yes.
do. It's okay. No big deal. Like this, we're making this a much bigger deal than it has to be. But obviously he's still a king, and he's gotta do something, right?
Mhm.
And that's the part that really sucks here is like Robert is so uninterested in this, where he's like, Cersei keeps trying to egg him on, egg him on, egg him on, and he's like, look, she's like, look, he's gonna have these scars for the rest of his life, and Robert's like, well, good, maybe it'll teach him a lesson. Maybe he'll look at those scars and remember the time he fucked around and found out.
Yes, absolutely. But no, she kept pressing it. Like, even to the point that King Robert had to excuse his brother out the room. Like,
Oh,
my
that
man
was
was
funny.
laughing hysterically, like, yo, you can please tell me how you lost all your sword and how you got beat down by a girl when you get a chance. To the point that everyone knew. So it just made Cersei like, you know what? I'm going to double down on this. Now, you're going to showcase that you are the king. He's the king and I'm waiting. Show authority. Everyone wanted to just like what Eddard said, if it was just those two in the room, it would have been solving no problem. But because she was there and she wanted to press the issue and everyone was laughing at her son, which is her bloodline, I need examples made out of it.
Yeah.
And then who walks in? Your favorite character of all time.
So, before I get to Sansa, I thought that I'm so glad they had Renly in the scene, because he does give us a little bit of laughter in this scene or in this
Yes.
chapter, because he's feeling the same way everyone else is feeling about when Joffrey is giving his rendition of the story, just like this little girl disarmed you.
Yeah, like
that's
come on. Like what is it, cat?
that's
Like, yo, get out of here with that shit, yo. Get out of here with this. I'm not dealing with this
yeah,
bullshit.
like that's hilarious. But like Renly knows who Joffrey is. Like that's his nephew. He's in King's Landing. He sees him every day. He knows he's a prick, right? So like that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's so funny. That's why like when he's outside the door, he's like laughing about the name that Joffrey gave that sword, Lion's Tooth, and he just like is bagging up in the hallway, right? And everyone can hear him, right? So yeah, to your point, I feel like that kind of really got under Cersei's skin too, because she's like, oh, like now my son is being humiliated. Now
Mm-hmm.
we gotta make an example out of them, right? So I think Cer- Cersei makes everything worse. But
She's not the
Sansa
worst though.
Sansa does not help the situation. In this, and it's moments like this is where people really dislike Sansa, is because Sansa is so enamored with the idea of
Mm-hmm.
Joffrey, not actually Joffrey, because no one can actually be in love with Joffrey because he's a piece of shit. He's an
Oh, she
absolute
she
detestable
absolutely
human being,
she
right?
absolutely I thought she was so fascinated with him.
So she comes in and she's kind of like tiptoeing around the issue, like, oh, I don't really remember. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see. And Arya's pissed, right? Because she's like, bro, like why can't you just stop being phony for 1 second in your life? Just stop being phony. And of course, Arya being Arya, which is probably not a good look in this setting, but she's a child. She attacks Sansa, and that kind of gives Cersei a little bit of that makes Cersei feel good, like,
It's
oh,
proof.
she's just as wild as that little wolf of hers. Like, look at him. Of course she did this. Of course she attacked her son. Look at her. She's
Yes.
attacking her own sister, right? So it's just like
Mm.
it's a sad set of affairs because, like you said, if it was just Ned and Robert in the room, like Robert said, make sure your daughter is disciplined. I will do the same with my son.
And it was done.
And it was
It was
done.
done.
It
And
was
this is
done.
why I think Sansa's the worst. Like right now, if there was a poll ranked number one of who's the worst characters in it right now, then by this chapter, before this chapter, Cersei. After this chapter, Sansa. That was your sister, bro.
I don't
No,
know.
no,
I
no,
mean,
no, 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 no. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you
no.
why. In
Wait,
my
I think
opinion.
you're forgetting that Jaime pushed the child out the window.
Yeah, that part too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, she's number 2 right now. Okay, she's number 2. Jamie's number 1. She's number 2. I forget about that. He's next though in our chapter. I came up for his chapter, but she had a chance to stick up for her sister, and she's so oblivious to life. I understand she's still a child at this point, and it shows her and the growth of what she has to go through. But yo,
Come on.
consequences, yo. Like you took one. You could took one for the team. You didn't. You witness your man's get the 1-2 piece. And you gonna blame on the butcher boy, everything else, and like, you could have spoke up and ended all this, but you was so, like you said, fascinated with the dream that she wanted to be.
And this is one of might be the first of many examples that Sansa's going to get in realizing just how unfair and how unforgiving this world is, right? Because she did that because she didn't want to throw Joffrey under the bus and lose her idea of this betrothal to her perfect prince and everything like that. And now we see what happens, right? So after Robert and Ned are kind of like, look, children fight, it is what it is, whatever, it's done. Cersei's like, well, what about the wolf? What are you going to do to the wolf that savaged your son? And, Jory's like, look, we didn't find no wolf. Is what it is. Cersei's like, there's another wolf here. And that's how cruel
it is,
That's
bro.
how cruel she, like Lady had nothing to do with any of this, but just to make a point, just to throw her royal weight around. She's going to have one of these direwolves, an innocent direwolf, slaughtered because she just feels like she needs to get some sort of revenge against.
And what also makes it worse, bro? Is that she know her son was lying. She knew her son was lying.
100%.
She came with the rescue to help your son. Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, you still like she just basically pisses on everybody she possibly can to say you're below me. That's her whole thing. So yeah, lady gotta go. And then Eddard's like, yo, are you serious? Like talking to the king, like, yo, like we just squashed this as men and you really gonna go and do this? And then see as in like, well, do it yourself. If you're that bad about it, do it yourself. As in, like I'm
that.
checking you, I'm checking your manhood, and then you see the king like, yo, you doing some stuff right now. Me and you 1-on-1, we taught this. You can't do it for anybody else. You can't do that. So now you're testing who I am. I got people behind me looking at me like sideways, like who's the real king here? So now he gotta go down. Yeah, dog gotta go.
Yeah, and again, you brought up a great point there about him kind of challenging Robert. Again, it's showing the difference between your traditional, what we think of like Northmen, and these old traditions and an old school style way of thinking of conducting yourself in life, right? Versus King's Landing and all the politics and everything like that, right? Like Ned's like, all right, well, if you're going to order this innocent dog to die, why don't you go do it? Why don't you go do it? You're the ultimate authority here. How about you go out there, you grab a sword, and you take this poor little wolf's life, right? And Robert walks away, whatever, and Ned's like, no, I'll do it. Like this dog is of the north. She deserves more than your butcher. So I'll do it.
Was a surprise at Cersei. She's like, you're really gonna do it? Because only the men that she's really messed with and she's been around were kind of, I'm not saying cowards to her, but they always
but not men of their word.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it. So he's like, nah, you want to play with me? That's still on the north. I'm going to do it. That took her to like another level of being surprised. Like, okay, he's really about what he says he's going to do. So moving forward, I got to make sure I handle things accordingly because he really will do everything he says he's going to do.
Right. Right. Which, in many ways, again, it's one of those political things that counts against Ned because he is so very literal in what he says that, like, when you're dealing with, the quote unquote Game of Thrones, it's easy for people to maneuver around you who don't think and move the same way you do, right?
Yeah.
But I think this should have been a good lesson for Sansa
Mm-hmm.
to realize just what all this shit is really about.
Yeah.
But we'll see as we continue to go through the books. It's gonna take her a long time to learn. But Ned goes out, he finds the dog, and he's it's kind of eating him up inside about what he has to do, but he does it. But as a kind of one last kind of fu to Cersei, he tells Jury to get a couple of men and take the body north and bury the wolf at Winterfell.
It reminded me of like some Diddy stuff, yo. Go get my cheesecake. Like,
Yeah,
yo, what?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
y'all gonna do what I
Jory's
say,
like,
dude.
you want us to take the body all the way up there? He was like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Cersei will never have this pelt. She'll
Let
never
it be
get
known.
this one.
Go
Yeah.
get my cheesecake, yo. Don't
And
don't why
I
don't talk to me.
love that. I love that for Ned, like her, like because she was kind of puffing her chest out, saying, "Oh, the king that I wed, he would have made sure that there was a wolf pelt on my lap by the time the sun was down." And he was like, "Well, you ain't getting this one, bitch. How about that? You ain't getting this one." And to make matters worse, again, just to kind of show you, how cruel this world is. As Ned's walking back, about to go to bed, he finds the Hound, riding back into the castle, and he's got the butcher's boy laid over, the horse, rode him down, killed him, nearly cut him in half.
And this, how do you feel about we talk about his writing all the time, but just this right now, I just had a moment of thinking about this. We start off with the conflict of an animal. We end with the person who was called an animal and
Mm-hmm.
being the hound. Like everything correlates to everyone's hound, wolf, or protector, but they all have different jobs. You can say that Cersei is the hound of Joffrey. He has to make sure make sure everything's fine. And then as you see the evolution, it ends with, hey, hounds kill people also for no freaking reason.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you just how unfair all this is, right? Like
Yep.
Micah didn't do anything wrong, but because he is the lowborn of the group, and the crown prince says, "Oh, this boy wronged me," that's a death wish. You know what I mean? That is an absolute death sentence. So, um, it's it's a fucked up chapter, man. I remember watching it for the first time, like on the TV show, and just being like, like it just sucks, man. It's just like, but again, we're not even in King's Landing yet. We are in Ned's third POV chapter, and we already hate the Lannisters. We hate everything about them. Like
I
like they've already built up this tension. So when Ned does finally get to King's Landing, they're just gonna up the ante to 11.
That's what it is. Like they've basically like led the breadcrumbs of irritating his soul. That once he gets farther away from home, he gets the less protection he gets. Then we're gonna make it even like that's like it just leads to the actual inevitable doom. Like what's gonna happen? Like it's crazy. It's really crazy how they poetically just destroyed him. Like you kill one of his own over a child's lie.
Yeah,
This is only the beginning.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's again, it's bad omens, right? I mean, like the dire wolf is the sigil of Ned's house.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And here Cersei is a Lannister ordering the death of the direwolf. It's just it's I mean we can talk all day about symbolism and foreshadowing and everything like that, but
Bring me next chapter, yo. I don't want no more
yeah,
Sansa chapters, yo.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
telling you, I got a list. Matter of fact, next pod we have, I'm gonna have like a dry erase board in my list of who is the top my personal hated characters right now, and then we're gonna see the end of chapter if it changes.
We are just getting started, my friend. We haven't
I
even
know. I'm on
scratched the
a long ass list.
But anyways, guys, thank you for hanging out with us this week in Westeros. We'll be back. We do this every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys thought about the chapter. Again, like I said, we do this every week, so we'll be touching Bran next. I'm sorry, pause. We will not be touching Bran. We will be covering Bran POV chapter next week. That was crazy. That was crazy. That was crazy. We'll catch y'all next week.
I was like, yeah, we're gonna read next week. Oh man,
Yo, that's
we're
crazy.
tired, ladies and gentlemen. We're tired. It's been a long day.
That's